Welcome to this episode of the Business Spotlight. Today we are joined by Ben Richards from Aura Architecture. Hi, Ben.
Oh yeah, how you doing?
Yeah, very good. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. So, the Business Spotlight, it's a place for you to find out a little bit more about business, more importantly, today about Ben's business. And if you're thinking of getting your own business, or if you're already on that entrepreneurship journey, you're in the right place. So, Ben, if you can just kick things off for us by letting the audience know who you are, what you do, and how long you've been doing it for, please.
Sure, yeah. So Ben Richards, I run a series of businesses. You mentioned Aura Architecture, which is my longest running business of 8 years. But my background's always been in architectural engineering. That's what I studied. I did have a brief stint after graduating as a professional poker player, which is something I'm sure we could talk about at a later date. And then, yeah, went to work for another architecture firm. Then went to work for the Berkeley Group in central London on some big property developments, and then was really getting itchy feet. I always wanted to build my own business, start my own business. I had the opportunity to get planning approval for a house in a corner plot that I owned. Built that, project managed that of a weekend and during the weekdays, evenings. And basically, once that property development was finished, I refinanced that property and had a bit of cash. So it gave me the cash and the incentive to basically go in the next Monday with my resignation letter and say, I want to do more of this. I want to build my own businesses. I want to make my own destiny. I want to do my own thing. And that was back in 2017. So May 2017 is really when my entrepreneurial kind of journey started. The businesses then started to kind of take shape after that point. So yeah, I guess been in it for 8 years full time now.
Wow, that sounds amazing, and definitely going to peel back some of the layers on some of that you've just mentioned there. So, I mean, with the business, the way that you've got it set up now, what would you say would make, what's the main differentiator between what you do and anybody else out there doing something similar, Ben?
I think from an architectural perspective, like when I set up the business, it was to remove myself from the day to day as much as possible. And that was something that would allow me to then build my development business. So I'd always wanted to spend most of my time doing property development. But I wanted Aura as a cash flowing entity, basically a business that I could build that gave me the stability that property development doesn't, because property development is extremely risky, extremely up and down in terms of ebbs and flows of cash flow. Whereas, I wanted to build a business from an architectural perspective that had that sort of consistent repeat kind of profitability that was relatively consistent. I wanted to take myself out of the business, which I know a lot of people listening to this and business owners want to do. They're too day to day in the operations of a lot of their businesses. They need to learn how to work sales and marketing, to build in a team to kind of deliver upon the business rather than be stuck working in it. And that was a real key focus for me early on. It was bring the right people in, build the marketing and sales funnels to release my time to do other stuff. And that's allowed me to really work on our online presence. That's been definitely something that we've probably done more than a lot of architecture practices have done. Certainly smaller practices anyway. When you type in residential architects into Google, last time I checked, we were ninth. We were on the first page of Google, which for a team of 15 in Southwest London is not a small feat really. And that's not just residential architects London, that's just literally residential architects in the UK, and we come up ninth. So we've worked very hard on our SEO and our marketing, and I've tried to build a business that does architecture, not build an architecture business, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
it does.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's where we're at. There's a team of 15 now that deliver about 60 projects a year. We'll probably hit about £1 million in revenue this year, which will be the first time we've done that. We've sort of grown consistently over the last 8 years, having a few spurts coming out of sort of COVID. We went from about 350 to 750 in the matter of a year. So quite fast growth at that point, but then things have slowed down since then, where we've been a bit more strategic with it and haven't wanted to grow as fast because growing pains come with that sort of fast growth. So yeah, it's been a journey for sure.
Wow, that sounds amazing. And I think the fact that you've got it to that level where you've got the business aura architecture, to, have that stability. But then, like you say, with the property side of the business, knowing that you've got that fluctuation going on, you've got that nice balance going on. And also, from a very young age, you've learned some of the basic fundamentals in business, which is working on your business, not in your business, which then effectively creates a commercial profitable enterprise that works without you, which is what we
Yeah.
always try and discuss with our clients. So, I mean, that's fantastic. So, I mean, it's given us a bit of an insight, but just give me a bit more detail, please, Ben, just around the business and businesses that you've set up and the reasoning behind why you've done that.
Yeah, sure. So Aura, we mentioned, XP Property is my property development business, and that's where I spend most of my time. um, we were getting pretty poor service from our measured building and topographical surveyors within Aura. And I just thought it could be done better. And I'm glutton for punishment. So I said to Jack, my business partner in XP Property, look, I don't think it's going to take too much for us to try and get this business off the ground. And that's when XP Survey started. So it was a bit fortuitous. Jack, in one of his rental properties, literally knocked on the door, spoke to the tenant who opened the door, who said, how are you doing? Got chatting. What do you do? And he said, oh, actually, I've just been made redundant from my measured survey company. So Jack was like, oh, that's funny that, because we're starting a business in measured surveying. You fancy a job? So that was where, Oscar joined us first, and he's still with us sort of 4 years later. But that business has now grown. And my goal with XP Surveys was to get that business in 3 years to sort of the revenue that Aura did in 5, 6 years. Now, it was sort of take the learnings from growing Aura, which is another service-based business, to then into a new business which does similar industry but different, and actually in a way kind of a much better business model, because there's no subjectivity in XP Surveys product. It's you go to site, you measure something, here's the drawings, and off you go. With architecture, there's huge amounts of subjectivity. You've got the planners, you've got the client, you've got the whole process whereby scope creep is very, very prevalent. You have to capture all of that. Whereas with XP Surveys, we've used technology to kind of do something that other people haven't. So there's nobody in the industry that offers an instant quoting tool on their website, which was the premise of where I wanted to start with that business. It's utilizing tech and bringing what is quite an antiquated industry that uses loads of high technology, but their operations and systems don't really match the technology that they use. So we use API integrations and property data, and couple that with our own kind of pricing algorithm, so that people can literally go on the website and type in their postcode and select the services that they want, and then they'll get an instant quote within literally 30 seconds. So nobody else is doing that in the industry. We sort of we wanted to build the business off the back of that sort of tech, and essentially take what I'd learned in Aura and bring it into XP Surveys. Outside of XP Property, XP Surveys, and Aura, there are two other businesses that I run with my business partner, or he runs with his brother, that form a bit of an ecosystem. So throughout the property journey, we can survey it, we can design it, we can deliver it, and we can manage it. And that's how we've been able to kind of feed each other's businesses, if that makes sense. So, Aura serves XP Property, XP Survey serves Aura. So there's that kind of vertical integration of businesses that help to flatten out some of the curves of work that might not be there, or give a good client base from day one that we can start building upon, which some businesses don't have. They're starting from scratch, whereas we sort of have already businesses that can feed work into the other businesses.
Yeah, that's an amazing concept, and I love the way that you've sort of pitched it as its own little ecosystem as well. I mean, that's brilliant. Quite genius, in fact.
Thank
So,
you.
so that gives us a bit of a run up to speed, and I know it's just some of the milestones that you've covered off for there, Ben. But so looking forwards, and if we just take Aura initially, what sort of plans have you got for going forward, and what sort of challenges do you think you're going to be facing?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I've sort of Aura is not a sort of high growth business for me. It's kind of stabilize it at probably not much more than where we're at the moment. We want to do more interior design. So last year we had a big focus on providing sort of interior design services outside of just the architecture. We have plans this year to bring more sustainability within to the offering that we have. So, that's obviously a real big thing, trying to get to kind of net zero by 2050, which is the government's goal. So that's everything is moving in that direction. So we want to jump on that now, and be at the forefront of kind of creating really sustainable, energy efficient homes for people. That's quite key. So in terms of like the business growth, those are the two key areas, as well as doing more property developer client work for Aura. But I really don't see it growing much more. Um, I'd love to get to probably like a £1.5 million revenue, whereby the profit I make out of that is sort of at a level that I think is it is good for me. From a high growth business perspective, XP Surveys is where I see the next 5 years being. The trajectory is far greater for that. We actually want to get that to a £5 million revenue business. We want to exit at some point. We want to build the basis of that business on the tech platform that we've already built. And that's exciting for me. That's not something we've done. It's Aura. I love the projects that we work on. I don't really see kind of that. I don't really see an exit kind of within that business. Whereas XP Surveys, Jack and I want to build that business to exit at some point. And we've seen a couple of surveying practices very similar that have sold for decent margin of late to some bigger companies that kind of want to engulf mergers and acquisitions type style. And then XP Property will just be generational wealth. It's all building the property base, building the asset base, lumpy cash sums as and when we can make it work. But it's very, very difficult to be a property developer nowadays. I know everyone hates property developers, but it's very hard work. And there's, huge risks in that business, whereas XP Surveys and Aura trundles along, just ticks along. Doesn't give me that many grey hairs.
No, that's great, and it's a good mix of businesses that you've got there, Ben. So I mean, yeah, fantastic insight, and I'm sure that's going to resonate with a lot of our viewers and audience. So that's great. So on that note, you as a business owner, Ben, what would you say in running the business or businesses? Would you, and I know it's always difficult when I say to narrow it down to just one or two, but what would you say has been the biggest lesson that you've learned that really stands out for you running the business?
Yeah, I think it falls true in all of the businesses that I run, and it's building the right team, right people in the right places. I've made some bad hires in the past. I guess in amongst the businesses that I've run over the last 7, 8 years, I must have employed probably 40 plus people, I guess. There's about 25 people amongst the ecosystem at the moment within the business, but people have come and gone. So yeah, probably 40 plus. Um, and when you get a bad egg, it it festers everything else. It really does. Like it's not just they're bad, they're not doing their job, and you're losing, potential income from the projects that they're working on, for example. It filters out to everyone else. It brings everything else down, and you can have a lot of profitable people within your business. And if there's just one bad egg, it really does impact everything. So, hire slowly, fire fast. That's sort of generally what I live by. You want the right people in the right places. You can't do it all yourself, and I learned that very early on. That you need to learn to delegate. It almost the fact that I wanted to move into more and spend more of my time doing development forced me to understand the art of delegation with Aura, because my one goal with Aura was to build it to a point where I can step away and only do 4 hours a week. That was the guiding light of what I want to build the company to do.
Yeah.
And I think without the team, it just wouldn't have been possible. So yeah, I think understanding how to build teams to keep good people is so crucial to business.
Yeah, I think it's paramount, and I think it's a fantastic share. So thank you very much again for that one, Ben.
No worries.
Um, so Ben, I mean, if we were able to go back in time and we was able to go and visit an 18-year-old Ben, but you get
Hmm.
the opportunity to share one piece of advice or one golden nugget with an 18-year-old you, what would it be?
Hmm. Yeah. If I were to share one golden nugget with 18-year-old me, it would be to surround myself with the type of people that I want to be. surround myself with business owners, with entrepreneurs, with people that are out there doing it that I can learn from vicariously, shadow, follow, I guess, that's 20 years ago for me. I didn't have, I mean, it was around, I think, like YouTube and, podcasts, nowadays there's so much out there for people to learn from. It's almost kind of analysis paralysis of everything that's out there available to you. And you do have to be cautious of who you follow and you make sure you're following the right people. But there are so many resources out there nowadays. Yeah, I would say get in the right rooms, speak to the right people that are out there doing what you want to do, um, and learn from them. And I think that's part of the reason why we started our own podcast 2.5 years ago, and the amount of opportunity that's come from that and the um, ability to kind of share our learnings and reciprocity kind of happens, and good things then come your way in terms of investment or opportunity or deals or network, contacts. And yeah, there's a whole opportunity out there with the digital space, the social media world that you can tap into now that I couldn't 20 years ago. So I think, yeah, getting in the right rooms, speaking to the right people, definitely key.
Yeah, I think that's another great one. And I think, you hear people say, look at the 5 people that you hang around with the most, and that's going to be the average of the person that you're either going to be or you already are. And I
Yeah.
loved the way that you started when I asked you the question, you started off by saying, I would surround myself with the type of people I want to be. I
Yeah.
thought, wow, I love that. So yeah, I've written that one down. I like that a lot. Um, I mean, great share, Ben. And I mean, I can tell just not just with the one, but the 5 businesses that you've got there, you're really passionate about what you do. But what I really want to know is what is it that inspires you to continue to do what you do day in, day out, week in, week out?
Yeah, it's hard, especially in property development, because shit hits the fan constantly. It's constant firefighting, which does grate on you, and you have to be extremely resilient. Like it's, business, you need to be resilient. Property development is like a next level of resilience. Um, but what inspires me is I've always been the type of person that loves building things, like whether that be, Lego as a kid, puzzles, it's like I'm very technically minded. I like solving problems and I like challenges. If you don't like challenges, business is just not for you, because every single day there is something else that comes at you. And our non-exec director says something that I really love in terms of the bigger you grow, it's like driving a faster car. Everything comes at you faster. And that's exactly what, as I've grown and the problems get bigger and they come at you even faster. So it's definitely resilience that gets me by. I'm inspired by other people on their journeys and sort of building the businesses that they're building. I love learning. I think, you should never stop learning. I'm very kind of humble in the fact that I know a lot, but I don't know everything. And there's always somebody that I can learn from, and that's something I strive to do. I've always got my headphones in, listening to podcasts of business and marketing and sales, and I guess it's the creation that inspires me. I think what I think I've learned actually over the last 7 years is that I've been in the property industry for a long, long time because I like creating things. But what I've learned over the last 7, 8 years in business is that I like building businesses more than I like building property. Like, I love the finance sector. I love the marketing. Like all of that stuff is creating, whether it be business or property. I just like creating things and seeing something from nothing go to something.
Yeah. No, that's yeah, I can see that, and just hearing you sort of speak about it and the excitement in your voice, yeah, I know that that's a real key factor for you. So thanks again for that share.
Mm.
So I mean, Ben, people are going to want to find out more about you, more about your businesses. So what's going to be the best way for them to do that?
LinkedIn is probably, a great place to start. We are regular, or I'm regularly posting across various businesses on that platform. Instagram is another place. the podcast I mentioned earlier, my business partner and I have been running the Property Experts podcast for the last 2.5 years. That's experts with an XP, as in XP Property Experts. And within that, we are live every Friday at 5 p.m. for an hour. We discuss the ups and downs of the business week, our successes, our failures, our issues, how we've overcome them. There's generally like 8 to 10 topics every week that we will talk about that have that we think will give value to people listening. You know, whether it be talking about accounting practices and using zero to kind of generate profit and losses, to capital allowances in property development, or building your team, or recruiting. But you know, it's literally whether you're in business. If you're in business and property development, then it's a great place to be. Even if you're just in business and want to get into property, you'll learn a huge amount, I think, from the conversations that Jack and I have every Friday. So yeah, the Property Experts podcast is a great place to be. But follow me on LinkedIn. You know, there's everything that we do will be posted on LinkedIn. So yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Ben, it just leaves me to say thank you very much for joining me on this episode of the Business Spotlight.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And for all of our viewers and audience, again, that's a wrap. Thanks very much. We'll see you all again soon. Bye for now.